And now, it's time for the Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin.
Hello, reading friends. Today I'm excited to bring you an interview with a debut novelist. A debut novelist is someone whose first book is just coming out, and that means you have the opportunity to discover a brand new author and show her your support. I'm so glad to have the chance to connect you with her, and if you enjoy reading historical fiction based on real-life events, I hope you'll listen closely and go check out her work. Our author today is Emerson Ford. She's a writer, teacher, wife, and mom. I think you'll enjoy getting to know her. Before we begin, I hope you'll take a moment to go over to Facebook or Instagram and follow me at author Erin Mifflin. That way you'll keep up with my latest news and also stay up to date on which authors I'll be interviewing next. You could also let me know if you've been enjoying these interviews as much as I have. They're always so much fun, and I look forward to them every week. Now, let's bring in our guest. Hello, Emerson, and welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Erin. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Congratulations on the release of your debut novel that's called What the Silent Say. Can you tell us what the story is about?
Sure. It's the true story of two brothers who fought in World War II, their loved ones, the men they fought beside, and an extraordinary battle that helped to bring World War II to an end.
This book was inspired by a true story. Whose story is it, and how are they connected to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't give away too many details without spoilers, but it's the story of my grandfather and my uncle, also a mystery involving them both that I set out to solve. The story took on new life when I found a sheet of paper in a box at the National Archives, and it detailed a story about a unit that I couldn't believe hadn't been told. So the more I dug, the more I realized that I had to tell this story. That's all I can say, but the rest of the story is in my author's notes.
Well, I think that is so cool that, it is the story of your grandfather and his brother, and having that family connection is really special.
It is.
And even with the personal connection to the story, did you have to do a lot of research into the time period?
Oh, yes. So it took me almost 7 years to write this book from start to publication date. I started writing it when I lived overseas in Germany, so I had to travel back and forth to the States to dig in the archives and research there. And another thing about writing a war novel is that it required a lot of research about things that I just didn't know about. Battle tactics, weaponry, policies, procedures. My husband's in the Army, so it wasn't a complete blank slate. But even so, I wanted the book to be as factually accurate as I could make it. Here's an example. Did you know there's a rule about how many times a soldier can rap on a door before being admitted to his superior's office?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, 2. If you're curious, you can only rap twice. So little things like that. There are a lot of little details that you just don't know until you know. So this book covers a unit that fought in Guam, the Philippines, and Okinawa, so I had my work cut out for me to make sure I could portray those battles accurately. So learning the landscape, learning the movements of the units, it was quite a lot.
That is a lot. And I unfortunately haven't been able to read the book yet, but I was looking through the reviews from early readers, and they say the book packs an emotional punch, and many say it made them cry. And was it your intention to write a story that was so emotionally impactful?
That's another good question. All I knew when I started writing was that I wanted these men and women to come alive for the reader. It was tragic to me that the only thing left of them were some papers in an archive, letters, some pictures, but they were forgotten mostly. They were once flesh and blood, like us, with hopes and dreams, but they also happen to be an example of what it looks like to choose hope in the darkest of days. So if I brought that back to life, if I accomplished that for any reader, I'm truly grateful. That was the only thing I hoped for, really.
I think about that sometimes too. As we live in the present, But there will come a time when we are just those people in the photographs, right? And people might not remember us very well, but we want to live a life that would leave a legacy. And I love that you are discovering these stories and bringing them to life, and honoring those who have gone before us and served their country and loved well.
Well, it's really, truly an honor to do that. I just love being able to do that. And this story is so close to my heart, and it's really gratifying, not for myself, but for these men and women that other people might be affected by their story and encouraged by what they did. I am very thankful if I had any hand in helping that come to light.
And will you be writing any more books in the same genre?
Well, I do have a second book coming out. It's historical fiction, and it's based on the true story of a Revolutionary War heroine who saved her sons from the British. It isn't World War II fiction, but it's very much in my lane of wanting to bring to life true stories of unsung heroes. And she also happens to be my great-grandmother a few times over. So our family tree is wild. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stories. Some I don't really want to tell so much, but others I do.
Yes, that's so cool. I did not realize that you were reaching back even farther into your family tree.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that my publisher was open to me stretching the boundaries a little bit. They don't want me to stay in the lane of World War II fiction. They're just really focused on what is a good story to tell. And so that's been very exciting that they're open to it.
That is, especially, if you feel called to branch out from one particular time period.
Right.
Yes, and I will tell you that the true stories from the past, those are my favorite to read also. When someone can bring to life a kind of forgotten piece of history, that just really intrigues me. And that's what I like to write as well, although more with some romance mixed in. I know yours is more like straight historical from my understanding.
Well, there's some romance. You got to have a little bit of romance, right?
Yes.
It's a wonderful part of life, so there's a good dose of that too.
So who are some authors that you enjoy reading?
Well, I'm a pretty eclectic reader, but since I teach literature, my head is in the classics a lot. Tolstoy, Dickens, Lewis are some of my favorites. As for authors from today, Laura Hillenbrand, the author of Unbroken, is very inspiring to me as someone who's overcome a lot of adversity in order to write. And Hat Tip, the young adult version of Unbroken, is just as good as the adult one. And also Laura France, Tosca Lee, Marcus Brotherton, Tessa Afshar. I could just go on. But these are just a few of the names of authors that I enjoy reading and am inspired by. I love what they're doing. I walk away from their book changed in small ways, sometimes big ways.
Now, as a debut author, what has surprised you most about your journey to publication and bringing this book into the world?
Honestly, I had no idea how hard it would be. And I don't think you can know until you're in the thick of it. You have to have a real stick-to-itiveness despite a lot of rejection, naysayers, roadblocks, self-doubt. And you have to really love writing and feel called to it to continue. For me, personally, it's not about being published or building a career, though there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of those things, and I'm thrilled to be published. But my main motivation, as I've pretty much already said, is that I have a strong need to tell stories of people who have been forgotten, so that way they can come back to life in a sense. Their memory and their stories come back to life. So that's my main motivation, along with the joy of writing itself. And so that pulled me through to where I am today, because it is hard. And if I didn't love doing it, I don't know that I would have continued. But it does require a lot of endurance. I don't know if you have felt the same way on this journey.
Yes, I would say so. And I knew, thankfully, because I'd been a book blogger for so long and kind of been on the fringes of the writing circle. Writing is something that I've wanted to do my whole life, but there was always so many other things to do. But thankfully, when I felt like there was a place where I could get into it, I knew it was going to be a marathon, and it wasn't going to be, you write a manuscript and get published. That is
Right.
generally not how it works unless you self-publish, which some people do. I have always wanted to be traditionally published, and so I've been knocking on those doors. But yeah, I knew that it was going to be in for the long haul. But even so, it has been a little longer than I anticipated. But there's been so much life things going on that I'm not complaining about that right at this moment.
Right. Well, that's good that you understand that from the start, because I didn't. So I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Is this something I want to do?" And then when I realized I was going to write no matter if I got published or not, because I had to tell these stories, and I thought, "Okay, well, the motivation is right. If I get published or not, great. It's just very fulfilling." So I'm very thankful for it.
Yes, that's a really good mindset to have. I've been thinking about that recently with other areas of life. It applies to writing as well, that you really need to know why you're doing something. And if you're facing a time where you're not sure what to do, I've kind of had this in the past few years in my life. Why are you doing what you're doing? Like, what is the most important? What are your priorities? And if you stay true to those priorities, the things that you feel that God has really put on your heart, He is going to work everything out, because if you're following Him, He'll take care of all of those details.
Right. It's true.
Now, I love the story that you tell on your website about the new friend you made when you were 10 years old. So for
Yes.
listeners who might not have seen that story yet, can you tell us about your friend and how her house sparked your imagination?
Well, so I loved history. Well, I've always loved history. I was one of those kids who would check out encyclopedias from the library, and I would just absorb the whole thing because I was fascinated by these old stories, and they would get my imagination going. Well, my friend moved into this dilapidated old Victorian house, and oh goodness, my imagination was set wild by the thought of what was in their attic. Because, people don't go up there, they leave things behind. What could be up there? So my mind is just going down these rabbit trails. Amelia Earhart's bones, or what could possibly be up there. I mean, now I know, of course, it wouldn't be Amelia Earhart's bones, but I was young. And so I actually asked my friend if we could go up there, and that was the first time when I realized that maybe other people didn't quite care about history as much as I did, because the reaction was just, why would you want to go up there? It's dusty. And I was never brave enough to ask again. So I never did get to see what was up there.
Aw, that's too bad.
I know. I wish I'd been braver, but I learned, or I guess there's a fine line between being nosy and curious. So
Yes. Well, it's so funny. I mean, I can tell what a storyteller you are just by reading that on your website. And on there, you never said if you got to go into the attic or not. And my curiosity was just raging. I'm like, I need to know.
Oh, well, I whenever I see old homes, my very first thought is, what's in the attic? And so writing historical fiction is my way of looking into the attic, so to speak.
Yes, that's so cool. And I love how your imagination was spinning stories like that, even at a young age. And did you always want to be a writer?
No, but like I said, I was always fascinated by history and by the story behind the stories, so to speak. I think there was always a writer deep inside me, though I didn't recognize it as such. I did write some pretty intense patriotic poetry when I was 8 years old, and I thought I would share a little bit of it with you
Oh, okay.
today. All right, here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. America's freedom soars through the air. It's where the just and truthful live. Oh, sing of gladness of being free. America, the country that fits me.
Aw.
Love, love, America has the most. Immigrants looked up and said, America, I'm glad I went here. Oh, my country of grapes that ripen true. If thou, bald eagle, happens to say, I bid you adieu, it will never have to, for we are free, me and you. So, if anything, it's proof that we can grow as writers, right?
That's true. That's quite a big vocabulary for 8 years old.
Oh boy, it's pretty cringy looking back on it, but I guess I always had a little bit of the flair for
Yes.
drama from a young age.
Well, thank you for being brave enough to share that with us today.
Well, I'm not too prideful to not share where I've started from.
Yes.
So
Now, you teach literature and writing to high school and university students. How much fun is it to immerse yourself in the written word every day?
it's so much fun. Teaching is another one of those things that I didn't know that I would love as much as I do, but I get to talk about what I love with insightful, interesting students. My creative writing class is a particular joy. I know this is going to sound cliche, but it's true. The level of my students' brilliance continues to surprise and inspire me every single day. And I also homeschool my kids, which is the best kind of teaching because I get to live life beside my favorite humans.
I had the same experience. I had multiple people ask me when I was growing up if I'd considered going into teaching. And I said, well, no. I was afraid that I would get burned out on it. But what I discovered when I did get into teaching was that when you have that feedback and you are inspired by those you are teaching, it's not something that you get burned out on. You are teaching them, but they are also inspiring you. And, their joys are your joys in the academic world. And, I can look at that student pass that test and, I know I helped them figure out their adjectives and adverbs or, whatever it was that they're taking. And it is their success, but it's also a part of my success too. So
Yes, there's really nothing like it. I completely agree.
And now, so you mentioned your family, and when you're not researching, writing, or teaching, what are some of the other joys in your life?
Well, of course, spending time with my husband, he's my biggest supporter. I couldn't write without him providing the opportunities to do that. We have a very busy life with 4 teenagers, which, that's also something that I just really enjoy as parenting teenagers. We're in this stage where it's just, you do a lot of talking, a lot of laughing. And I get a kick out of making them cringe, which, as you know, isn't hard to do at this age. They're just really fun people, and I enjoy my time with them. I also love my writing group, my writing friends. I truly wouldn't be talking to you about this story without them. They've been encouraging and so very smart whenever I've run into plot issues, which, it's helpful to talk them out, and they have been listening ears, and so that's pretty much it.
When life is full, it can be hard to fit a lot in, but yeah, the people, when you get really down to it, it's the people that are the most important.
Yes, exactly.
Is there a scripture that has been meaningful to you recently?
Yes, Second Chronicles 20:12, and it's the last part of it. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. As a military family, there has been a lot of chaos thrown our way at times, a lot of moves, sometimes multiple in a year, deployments, time apart. Seeing your kids start over all over again after they were just getting settled, it's really hard to see them go through that. There's unique job pressures that make it difficult for the whole family. It's hard, and it can feel impossible to write sometimes. But paradoxically, it's a good place to be in some ways, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that it wasn't through your own strength when you do get through to the other side. And so you keep your eyes on the one who does give you that strength and who goes before you and clears the path. And so it's so good to be here and to say, I could not have done this without the one who gave me the strength to do it. So that verse has really been my life verse for the past several years, I think.
The life that keeps you reliant on him, it might not be the one that, when we think about what we would choose for our lives, we might not necessarily choose a life that is super reliant upon the Lord because we might like to rely on ourselves a little bit. But
For sure.
I know I've been at places in my life where I've looked at a situation and I've said, I'm not sure anything good can come out of this besides like a deeper relationship with the Lord. And I stopped and went, maybe that's the whole point,
Isn't it funny? Yeah, that's usually how it works. The hard times are what do that for us, not the easy times. Wish it was the other way around, but God knows best.
That's true. And also I've discovered even just, as I'm about to get married and as I've been developing my relationship with my husband to be, we enjoy the good times, but it's always been like when something hard comes up that I just feel so much closer to him. And this just bonds us so much closer together as a couple. And I know that's true with the Lord as well. When we have those hard times and we're able to say, you know what, I really need you. And I know that you're going to see me through because you've brought me to this place and I have followed you here and you are going to see us through.
So true. So good.
Well, how can readers connect with you?
I love interacting with my readers on Instagram and Facebook. They can also email me at emersonfordwrites@gmail.com. I love hearing from them.
I hope that some will go and find your story, What the Silent Say, and learn about your family history and just be inspired to live heroic lives in the here and now. That would be wonderful if they do read, and I'm always here if they have any questions about the story. It's fun interacting with them about it. And before we end, I just want to give a special thank you to you because I was new to the writing community a few years ago, and you were one of the ones who reached out to help me navigate the waters, especially of a big writing conference. It was my first writing conference I'd ever been to, and you were so kind and made sure that I knew I needed to have business cards and several other pointers that you gave me, and you were just so encouraging to me along the journey. So you're just this bright light in the writing world. So thank you for being that. Well, thank you. It is such a joy to me because I've received so much help from others along the way. And I love being there for anyone that I can be. So it's my pleasure.
Well, thanks for having me today, Erin.
Yes. Listeners, I hope you will go check out Emerson on Facebook and Instagram, and that you will look up emersonfordwrites.com to follow her and check out the inspiring story of What the Silent Say. I'd love it if you would follow me on Facebook or Instagram at author Erin Mifflin, or visit my website at authorerinmifflin.com to sign up for my monthly newsletter. Next week, I look forward to bringing you another author to get to know. Until next time, happy reading!
Join us next week for another episode of The Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin. If you'd like to find out more about author Erin Mifflin, visit her Facebook and Instagram accounts.